Hey, Prump, I'm Dr. Reiner, and I'm back from vacation, so we have a live show tonight. So I know probably y'all out there have been getting tired of seeing reruns, but yeah, it was kind of crazy. I had to leave to go to a medical convention, and I had planned on coming back a little bit earlier, but unfortunately wasn't able to do that. My flight got canceled. And so, anyway, that made me miss a week. But anyway, we're back, and they should be putting a call-in line on there. And hopefully some of the loyal listeners are looking in. But if not, got a lot of new stuff to talk about. One of the things that's really kind of exciting that we are going to be undertaking in our office is something called plasma-rich platelet, okay, called PRP. I don't know if anybody's heard anything about PRP, but if you haven't, you will. And plasma-rich platelet is a portion of your own blood which contains a special concentration of platelets. Now, platelets are a rapidly produced white blood cell in our body, and as you know, they are involved, and if you don't know, well, I'll sure tell you they are involved in clotting. And so what people have been able to understand is that platelets, not only do they have these initiating the clotting cascade, but they have this growth factors, and they have what they call angiogenesis, which means they build new red blood cells. So it's very important to realize that in some areas in the body, orthopedic doctors have been using these to help heal strains and sprains and other areas that have not notoriously been healing, mainly because it could have been scar tissue and could have been other issues in there that are causing a lack of blood flow, meaning when an area gets inflamed, there's increased blood flow, but there's not necessarily any increase in healing process. And the healing process comes from new blood vessel formation. And if you ever cut yourself and you had a laceration or a scratch, you'll notice that you have that linear scar there, and around the scar is a zone of redness, okay? And we see that when we heal lacerations, when we have any type of cut, maybe you've been, had surgery or one of those things, you will see a new area of redness that develops around this cut, and that is what we call neovascularization or new blood vessels. Well, that's caused by the platelets that come into that and the clotting factors, and they release all of these growth factors, and you get new blood vessel formation, and the wound heals. And we're using that technology now to help heal other areas. I think we have a phone call. Sylvia, are you on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. I may have a little hard hearing you, so speak up loudly. What can I do for you?
Hi, this is Sylvia. I'm calling from Red Bluff, California, and I've been speaking with the flagman. Been trying to talk to you for about 3 weeks, and you haven't been there, so he just let me know that you are. Well, and if you could discuss diabetes and the difference in hypo and hyperglycemia, kind of what an ADA diet is, and the effects of blood sugar on neuropathy and mental focus, and just kind of the differences of both if you are not compliant with your regime.
So you would like for me to talk about diabetes and the difference between hyperglycemia and diabetes?
Hyper and hypoglycemia.
What's that?
The difference between hypoglycemia and hyperglycemia.
Okay.
And what an ADA diet is, and how you manage the hypo and hyperglycemia, and what the effects are of extreme high or low blood sugar.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. That's a 10-hour conversation, but I'll try and condense it down. I'll try and condense it down to as little as I can. But hyperglycemia and hypoglycemia. Hypo stands for low, and hyper stands for high. So hyperactivity, it would be a good way to remember that. So everybody knows what hyperactivity is. So you're on the high side of it. And what defines diabetes today is there are lots of different definitions. Some people will use a 2-hour postprandial blood sugar. There's lots of different complications. When I look at a patient, I look at their fasting blood sugar. If their fasting blood sugar is greater than 140, I'm very highly suspicious of diabetes. We also can do an average blood sugar called an hemoglobin A1C, and that is a lab test that clearly can determine whether or not your blood sugar is elevated. So anything above 6.5 on an average blood sugar is clearly a diabetic. And so that's one definition, fasting blood sugar greater than 140. And we're talking about adult onset diabetes. Now, juvenile diabetes is a whole different animal and probably should reserve for a different conversation. That's an autoimmune disease more likely than not. You get some type of viral infection. There's a cross-reactivity with certain like cytomegaloviruses and others where your body tries to fight off a virus, but it makes something to kill that virus, but it also unfortunately attacks the beta cells in your pancreas, and those drop out over time. And you can actually see average blood sugar slowly creeping up on a young person till they just flip into an elevated blood sugar, and before long they've got polyuria, polydipsia, which is drinking a lot and urinating a lot, because the sugar, once it goes above 220, your body cannot reabsorb it. Your kidneys are very, very important in reabsorbing sugar. So let's suppose you eat a meal and your blood sugar goes to 200 because you're trying to develop diabetes. Your kidneys will pick that up and put it back in your bloodstream. So once you get above 220, you start to spill it in your urine. There is a rare disease, like if you're just checking urine for sugar, you're going to find 1 in maybe 1,000 people. It's called familial hyperglycemia, and what that means is they just lack this enzyme to help reabsorb sugar in our kidneys. And that's interesting because that population was the harbinger for this new drug that came out, which is called SGLT2, but we can talk about that another day. So hypoglycemia, or low blood sugar, is someone that doesn't eat because your body makes two kinds of insulin. We make insulin all day long, and we make insulin after we eat. So when we eat, our blood sugar goes up. We make more insulin. When we're starving, our body makes insulin at a baseline level. So let's suppose you had unopposed insulin. Insulin is in your bloodstream. You don't eat. Then all of a sudden your blood sugar starts to drop. And it's different for everybody. There's a term called relative glycemia. What does that mean? That means that, let's suppose you slowly slip into adult onset diabetes, you gradually get up there. Your body gets used to a blood sugar of 220. It gets used to a blood sugar of even 340. I've had patients that had blood sugars in the 400s that lived there all the time. The minute you try and lower their blood sugar, they get relative hypoglycemia. They feel shaky, they feel lightheaded, they feel weak, they perspire, and those are all side effects of low blood sugar. But it's very difficult to treat those patients because they don't want to take any medication. It makes them feel bad. And so you have to be very, very ginger about trying to bring their sugar down very slowly. But that's a rare case. I've seen a few of those here in Pahrump, and they're just difficult patients to treat. But eventually, if you try and do it slowly, you can. So let's suppose your diet is very high in sugar and very high in carbohydrates. Then you may have the potential to develop hypoglycemia, because if you're eating foods that are high in sugar, your blood sugar is going to go up, and your body's going to secrete a bunch of insulin, and guess what? It's going to bring the sugar down very rapidly, and then you'll get the shakes. And then that's that. How do you control hypoglycemia? You balance out your diet. You balance out your diet with a very frequent nibbling diet, so you never let your sugar go very high. You've heard of the sugar highs and the shakes. Well, it's not the sugar that's making you shaky. It's your blood sugar coming down that's making you shaky. And so that's a key factor in that. So Hypoglycemia can be caused by taking too much insulin. It can be caused by taking too much of diabetic medication. It can be caused by starvation, especially if you're overweight and you're insulin resistant and you don't eat. Therein lies this a very difficult topic to talk about, but people that are obese have this large reservoir of insulin in their body. And so what that does is it unfortunately doesn't let the insulin do its job very, very rapidly, so you absorb a lot. And so and I guess I'm getting you confused, but insulin builds fat. Insulin builds what you tell it to build. So in America today, we eat and we sit. We eat and we drive. And what do? We gain weight. And that's why it's very difficult. Plus, our diets are very high in carbs, and we don't eat right in America. I'm telling you right now, we do not eat correctly here, and as a result, you see a lot of obesity. People are on their phones, they're driving everywhere, and you just look around, you will see it everywhere, and it's because that's what we do. We basically eat too much, and we don't have enough activity. So what would be the American Diabetic Association has a lot of different diets out there. You can go to their website. I tend to think about, and we're going to be going to break here pretty soon, but I tend to think about diabetes as an ADA diet as, those are nice, but I want you to think about your weight wherever you're at today, and if you divide that by 10, that should give you an idea, if you're not very active, what your basal metabolic rate is. And what do I mean by that? 200 pounds, 200 calories, 2,000 calories a day will maintain a weight of 200 if you do not do much. So at any rate, when we come back from the break, if I don't have another call, I'll pick that up. I think Sylvia got off the phone and was watching, so if you have a question, feel free to call back, but we're going to go to break and be right back. Thank you.
For all your construction needs, big or small, call Ron Murphy Construction, one of Pahrumph's most respected contractors, from septic tank installation to pad development. Roads, driveways, and infrastructure, Ron Murphy Construction has the experience and the expertise to complete your project on time and at a reasonable cost. Ron Murphy knows the Pahrump Valley and wants to take the desert and turn it into a place of beauty, be it home or business development. For more information, call Ron Murphy Construction, 727-6090.
Golden Casino Group has 3 locations located in Pahrump that fits all your needs. If you're looking for a family staycation, check out Lakeside RV Park, offering 159 full hookup RV sites, a 7-acre man-made lake, complete with kayaking, pedal boats, and fishing. The Pahrump Nugget has 69 hotel rooms and is home to many slot machines, table games, an award-winning steakhouse, bingo, bowling, a cafe, and a spacious event center, and the largest sportsbook in town where you can place your wager on your favorite teams and races. Craving some delicious pizza? Slices and Scoops, located in Goldtown, has made-to-order pizzas, subs, calzones, and ice cream. We also have Back Porch Cafe, which has traditional foods with an international flair. For more information, find us on the web at goldencasinog.com.
Empowering people out of poverty, helping kids like Grace and her whole community to shine. There's nothing quite like it. At World Vision, we've seen what happens when a child gets clean water or nutritious food, when she feels safe, gets to learn in a classroom, or discovers that she has infinite worth. Together, we're working to help every kid everywhere grow into who God created them to be. Reach out with us today and help people change their own lives for good. Learn more at worldvision.org.
Okay, and we're back. And so anyway, we were talking about diabetes. Sylvia had a very good question about diabetes, and since the phone lines aren't there, I'm going to continue talking about that. So trying to tie that all together, what that usually means is So if you're curious about whether or not you're a diabetic, and I have to tell you, if your BMI, you can calculate your BMI. You can take your weight, you can take your height, and you can go on to any kind of computer or cell phone, and there's a BMI calculator, and you can type in your weight and your height, and you'll get an average BMI. BMIs tend to be off a little bit depending on your age. If you're younger, your BMI tends to be scaled because you have more muscle mass than fat, and if you're older, it tends to be a little bit higher. But that being said, it'll get you in the ballpark. If your BMI is greater than 30, you're obese. If your BMI is greater than 35 and you have any condition like high blood pressure, elevated cholesterol, anything like that, arthritis, things of that, then you have morbid obesity. And if you have no complications and have a BMI over 40, then you're morbidly obese. Not all morbidly obese people develop diabetes, and in fact, it's not usually the case. It's usually the moderately obese people, and the BMIs of 30 to 40 usually have developed diabetes. So, Ray, you're on the phone. Ray, are you there? Ray is not. Either they're having a problem with the phone, so, okay. Well, I don't know. Is Ray there? Oh, okay. Ray is not there. Back to the discussion at hand. Anyway, diabetes. So get a fasting blood sugar. That's the simplest thing that you can do. And if you check around and you don't have any money, then you can get it done at some health fairs. And so is Ray back?
Yes.
Ray.
Yeah, we got disconnected. I was holding, all of a sudden the line went dead, you know?
Well, you know, things like that happen. It's America, right?
Yeah, CJ's no longer there, huh? He left?
Who's that?
CJ is no longer there. He left Friday, didn't he?
Yeah, I found that out today when I came in, but Vern's back there manning the show, so we're in good hands. But training a few new producers, and I'm excited about them being here.
I think Vern waved and called out to me when I was on base in the 160 today. He said it was Vern anyway.
Yep.
I was walking with the flag and the Bill of Rights, you know?
Yep.
And I do it at high noon, Doc, which is really silly, but I got to get 15, 20 minutes in so people can see me. But I'll tell you, that heat is outrageous.
Oh, my, I'm telling you what, dude. I hate to, go down the political discussion line, but this rhetoric on, everybody wants to throw away, make us all criminals that have guns and things of that nature. It's insane. I mean, I think my personal take-home message on all this is there are a lot of guns out there, so arm yourself. And that's kind of the way I think about it. But I'm entitled to my opinion. So
I have the same opinion. An armed society is a polite society.
Yep.
Problem is, most of these things happen where nobody has got a gun. It's a gun-free zone, and then people, they figure it's like a turkey shoot. That's what it is.
Yep.
More people carrying guns. Like when I'm in Walmart here, I'm carrying 2 guns. If something happens, I'm ready to jump in and
Yep.
take action. But and it's a deterrent. When someone's in Walmart, like I walk with my guns, Paul Miller, Louis DeCanio, people open carry, people see it, they're saying, geez, well, I can't go in there and do anything wrong because the customers are armed, for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait to call 911. The people in the store are protecting the store.
Well, and the truth is, they say that and I do believe this, and I've experienced it to some degree, in a very stressful situation, if you don't have the muscle memory to dial 911 in that situation, you are shaking so bad you cannot do it. And people don't realize the effects of adrenaline on the body function and being able to even to point a gun and shoot it accurately. I mean, there are multiple stories, and I share this one because a police officer is a crack shot, meaning he scores almost a perfect score in his test. He got into a gunfight. He emptied his clip, shot the assailant one time in the toe, and 17 rounds go off, and he gets this guy one time. So when I think about what I hear, I think you hear 100 shots, and 26 people get either hit or killed, and I take nothing away from the anguish that the families go through. It's a total senseless act, and I can't find any reason for it. But that being said, this world is full of crazy people, and what I don't understand is, like, I was listening to the news on the way up here. They had I don't know how many people shot in Baltimore and Chicago this weekend, but it doesn't make the news. I mean, they've got law enforcement up to Yiyang in Chicago, and they don't move the needle at all. So I don't get this. You know, it's unfortunate because it makes the news, but it's the world we live in, and you need to protect yourself. That's all there is to it.
Well, I'm from Chicago, and the areas where the shootings in Chicago were with the gangbangers.
Yep.
It's not the honest citizen walking around or something, the gangbangers. And what the cops do, and this is how they handle it, they let the gangbangers kill each other, and then afterwards they go in and get the bodies out there.
Yep.
You know, there's no other way to explain it.
Nope.
So this is what, you know, there's a Justice Department figure, and the figure used to be 400,000, and now it's up to over 1 million. How many lives are saved every year by people having guns, or the perception, Doc, that they have a gun?
Correct.
Perception.
Correct.
It's happened on the road. One time when I was campaigning for sheriff back in, I think it was in '02, I was standing in front of T-Town, and some guy pulled up and threatened to kill his wife right in front of me. Wow. And all I said to him, and I had my 2 guns on, and I said, I think twice about that. Mm-hmm. He apologized to her, to me, got in the car and drove off. Now, I don't know what he did afterwards, but at that moment in time, he realized, I didn't draw the gun, I didn't pistol whip him or shoot him or anything. He just saw the guns, and that was enough.
Yep.
1 million lives every year are saved by the perception or people actually having the gun. It's outrageous to say that we shouldn't be packing.
Yep.
And I think the more guns out there, the safer this country's going to be. By the honest citizens, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
Now, I'm going to get into your last phone call with Sylvia. Sylvia Ungaro. She worked out here for a long time. She knows you well. And I was telling her you had your own TV show, and she said, I want to call in. I want to call in.
Yeah.
So I said, next time he's on the air, I'll call you up and give you the phone number.
Yep.
She was curious about this diabetes because we have a friend named Paul who's really in bad shape with diabetes. He takes insulin and everything, but his blood sugar ranges anywhere from 300 to as much as 900. 900. And then he goes kind of nuts in the head. And then it drops back down, and he has a problem keeping the urine. And I don't know if that's from the diabetes, too, where he just can't control himself. Just, you know, he's got to wear a pad. So she figured she'd call in that he may be listening to the show. And another thing, his feet with neuropathy. Now, I guess that's some kind of pain in the foot or something. What is that?
Well, in diabetes, when your blood sugar is very high, you deposit a substance called amyloid, which is kind of a really thick kind of. I kind of would call it a glue paste. Would be the better way to tell it, but it actually blocks off the small arteries that feed the nerves, so the nerve endings die, and when they die, they don't send the correct signals, so they burn. They're kind of like they're in the process of just sending electrical discharges up into your body, which is perceived as burning and pain, because the nerve is not getting enough blood flow. It's just like a muscle that doesn't get enough blood flow. It gets hard, and it's called claudication. Lactic acid builds up. Well, the same process happens to the nerve. It's not an acid issue, but it is a lack of blood flow. And once the nerve finally dies, then you get numbness. But as long as the nerve is alive and it's not getting the correct blood flow, it's painful.
Yeah, he would. Sometimes I'd get a call 10 or 11 o'clock at night saying, I can't stand the pain in my feet. He's on, I think, Lyrica. He's taking Lyrica. But if he runs low on it, he goes to the VA, and it takes 3 or 4 days for him to get a new patch. And he goes absolutely nuts. And he calls it neuropathy, and he says, like, burning, and also when he's walking, like walking on broken glass.
Well, I can tell you, and nothing against the VA for the most part, but I would probably say that unless he's actively seeing an endocrinologist and on a strict diet and following that, they're not managing his diabetes well. He's a very brittle diabetic because he's at 200 or he's at 900. I mean, there are people out there that have difficult control diabetes. He really needs to see an endocrinologist if they can't get it under control. And most of the time, Ray, when I see people all over like that, they just start doing things that they shouldn't be doing. They eat things that they shouldn't eat. They go on binges. Maybe he drinks. I don't know the man, but you know, the alcohol is a pure sugar in its most purest form, and that sends people's sugar through the roof. Not only that, they can develop neuropathies as a result of that. So I don't know if that's the case, but whenever I start suspecting and I see really, really high blood sugars, high and low, I find people aren't really consistent with their diet or what they're taking that elevates their blood sugar.
When he told me 900 one day, I thought he was like close to being in a coma.
Well, no,
900.
yeah, you don't get, you know, you get, high blood sugars don't cause coma. They cause ketoacidosis, or they call, you know, but usually if you have insulin, you don't get diabetic ketoacidosis. It's only the new onset insulin-dependent diabetics develop that because it just goes on for such a long time, and the body is trying to make sugar, so it starts breaking down your fat. And using your protein to make sugar, but even though it's doing that, you can't get sugar into your body, and you can't get it into your fat cells, and your brain has plenty because it doesn't necessarily need it, but the point is that you build up all of this acid, and you get really, really sick from diabetic ketoacidosis, but it's usually people that have not been diagnosed, not old onset diabetics. Because when it's 900, and really, to be honest with you, if it's 900 on a finger stick, it's very inaccurate because I've never seen one go past 400, to be honest with you, Ray.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm going to call in the last segment. I'll give other people the opportunity to call in, but just so I don't miss this part, I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. Keep the faith and power to the people. Glad to see you back, Doc. Ray the Flagman, over and out.
Oh, thanks, Ray. And with that fine statement, we're going to go to break, and then we'll be right back. Thank you.
Everyone knows that landscaping in the desert can be a challenge. Land Art Landscaping is a licensed landscape contracting company that can design and install your own beautiful desert or even tropical oasis right here in Pahrump. Also, weeds can overcome your lot in no time. Land Art Landscaping can clean up the weeds and put you on a monthly service program to keep your yard maintained. Commercial and residential, call Land Art 727-8512. That's Land Art at 727-8512.
At Bees Embroidery, we offer custom screen printing as well as embroidery on all of your favorite garments. We can even create a patch for your club's design. We use the best names when crafting our products like Port Authority, Haynes, and Gildan. We're open Tuesday through Friday 9 to 5 and Monday and Saturday by appointment. For a honey of a job, call us, Bees Embroidery at 775-727-9444. Find us on the web at beesembroidery.net or email us at beesembroidery@yahoo.com.
I drive 65,000 miles each year in my bus. If people knew what I know, lives could be saved. You don't want to be in the blind spot of a 40,000-pound bus when I have less than a second to react. I do what I can by changing lanes or taking turns slowly. It really helps when people look out for me too. Give me room to operate safely. It's our roads. It's our safety.
Every day we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Anyway, we were talking about, and Ray made an interesting point at the break. He talked about it right before the break, the 900 blood sugar. You know, if you do test it in a lab situation or you do test it at the hospital, at the ER, they do have the capabilities of finding that blood sugar that high. But if you're using a glucometer, one of the ones that come from the store, those are very accurate between a blood sugar of about 100 and 170. Once you get out of that range, maybe 80, but once you get too low, then the good news is low is low, because you can't go from 60 to, I mean, It could be any of those numbers, right? But once you start getting above 160, if it says high, you're really high. And so if you were at 240, it's probably more likely to be close to 300. So if you're using a glucometer, understand that when it's greater than 240 or 250 on that machine, it's actually much higher than what that number says. So don't feel safe at 220 if you check it with a glucometer. It's not good, okay? These are meant to be accurate between a narrow range. And if your sugars are all over the place, I'm telling you right now, it's usually diet, because we just don't realize the glycemic load of the food that we eat. If you let your diabetes go on too long, here's what happens, right? You start to develop some kidney damage. Well, if you develop kidney damage and your kidneys are leaking, I can't really advise a high-protein diet, because protein starts to spill out of your kidneys and starts to damage the kidneys more. So if you don't take care of your diabetes and you let it affect your kidneys, pretty much all hope is gone. And what I mean by that is that you can't get on a keto diet, or you can't get on a good diet because you have to maintain carbohydrates, because you can't eat protein because it kills your kidneys even faster. So you do not want to develop leaky kidneys. And so when we talk about ranges of blood sugar control, one of the things that's important, if you can keep your blood sugar between 6.5 and 6, hopefully closer to 6, then you prevent the neuropathy, you prevent the kidney damage, and you prevent the eye damage. Eyes are very important, right? And because the eyes, what happens with that is that the blood sugar causes leaky capillaries, and it also causes new blood vessel formation. And these blood vessels don't stay in the retina of the eye. They actually tower up just like the stratosphere. And so here this blood vessel growing up into the space, and it outgrows itself, and then boop, it just pops open and you bleed. And once you bleed, if you get a vitreous bleed, you'll basically be blind, okay? That blood is going to go between, there's a marble in the back part of your eye that holds that retina down. And it does separate over time. I mean, it's very well known that vitreous separates. But you get a bleed in that space, not a very good, no way to get it out of there. And so I'm telling you what, diabetes is a very devastating disease, and it's very difficult to treat, but you are the treater. The doctor gives you advice, and you need to follow it. We have Sylvia back on the phone. Sylvia.
Hi, it's Sylvia from Red Bluff again, and I wanted to have you expound a little bit more on blood sugars, and I think Swagman mentioned a first name there of Paul. But a blood sugar that would be like up to 900 or as low as 30. Mm-hmm. And what effect would that have on mental, I mean, even if you're still conscious, but he is, on mental focus and confusion, I guess I would say?
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, and so it's the low blood sugar, Sylvia, is the one that causes mental cloudiness, confusion, lightheaded, and dizziness. The late effects of high blood sugar are going to have similar effects, but not the acute effects of high blood sugar. So it's so much more detrimental to someone to have low blood sugar and overshoot their insulin than undershoot it. We can always correct it down the road as long as the diet is consistent. So low blood sugar causes people, insulin coma is basically unopposed insulin, right? You drop your blood sugar so low you pass out, and then you can't be awake to taking your nourishment, so it keeps dropping your sugar lower. You can actually get brain dead from it by dropping your sugar so low, because your brain does not have any ability to store sugar inside of its tissues. So it has to be reliant on the blood sugar in the bloodstream. Are you still there?
So if you're running a blood sugar, extremely low blood sugar, or if you're told to take insulin, and he would take insulin even though he may not eat for the rest of the day, he can be actually in a life-threatening situation. Is that correct?
Yeah. So if you have unopposed insulin, you're going to get low blood sugar. So if you're taking insulin and you don't eat, and there are different types of insulin out there, Sylvia. There's short-acting insulin, there's long-acting insulins, there's intermediate-acting insulins. So I don't know what kind of insulin this gentleman is on, but the current standard of care is usually a little bit of long-acting insulin you give yourself once a day, and you give yourself short-acting insulin before you eat. You check your sugar before you eat. You kind of know what your sugar is. You correct for that. It's called a sliding scale. So we tell people, look, you get a glucometer, you check your sugar. Let's suppose for the sake of argument it's high. Let's say it just reads high. That's usually greater than 500. So I never advise my patients to give themselves more than 10 units of insulin, regular insulin at a time. But then I have them recheck it every 2 hours until they bring it down. So the average life of short-acting insulin, it peaks at 2 hours, and it can last up to 4 unless you're taking a Pedra, and it peaks in an hour and is out of your system in 2 hours. Most insurance companies are not covering a Pedra, which is a rapid. This is the insulin I prefer to use in diabetics because they can take it after they eat. Before you're taking Humalog or Novolin or one of those other insulins, and you should be taking it before you eat, usually with the first bite 20 minutes before, because it has this 4-hour curve. If your kidneys are horrible and you're kidney failure, short-acting insulin can last like long-acting insulin because your kidneys are very important in degrading or breaking down insulin.
So what would be some of the symptoms of kidney failure?
Of what?
Kidney failure.
Kidney failure. Okay, so we tend to think that we don't make urine in kidney failure. That's not true. One of the things that we would start to see is you'll still make urine, but the concentration of the urine is not concentrated. Normally you wake up in the morning and your sugar is nice and brown or dark because your body is concentrating it. If you're having kidney failure, you basically are going to make light-colored urine most of the time because you can't concentrate that out of there. You might get late stages where you develop edema. You might have some buildup in urea, which will cause your skin to itch. Those types of things and then you can get a hepatorenal syndrome. You can get all these different things that are associated with kidney failure, but the most important symptom is, obviously if you're diabetic, is just can you concentrate your urine? Because your urine turned dark, and if it doesn't, that may be a sign that your kidneys are lacking a little bit. The late stages are horrible, obviously, edema, swelling, high blood pressure, those types of things.
Been very helpful. Thank you.
Yep. So kidney failure associated with diabetes, you can leak protein, then that causes swelling. So if you get enough holes in your collecting system, or you get enough holes into your the kidneys are. There's a thing in there called a glomeruli, which is you got a blood vessel that kind of comes in and a blood vessel that leaves. The kidneys have millions of these little bitty filtering stations, or what I would call them in layman's terms. And so as the blood pressure gets wrapped in these little capillaries, it squeezes out plasma, it squeezes out serum. And then that goes through what we call a basement membrane. Now, I would describe that as cheesecloth. People would understand cheesecloth when they're putting cheesecloths over something and they're pouring something into it to trap the bigger particles. What you want to go through are the water and the smaller particles. But unfortunately, if you don't take care of your diabetes, you start to punch holes through the cheesecloth. And then you start letting big molecules go through there, like protein molecules. And those protein molecules cannot be reabsorbed, and you need protein. Protein holds fluid in your body. I'm telling you, if you didn't have protein in your blood, your skin would just puff up. It just moves right out. It's called oncotic pressure. That's not cancer pressure, because oncology is associated with cancer, but it's called oncotic pressure. Protein, high concentrations of protein hold fluid into our vascular space, and when we don't have protein that's good, fluid moves out of the spaces, and they call it third space. Third space would be abdominal peritoneal collections or edema in your skin. So heart failure can cause that, but that's not a low protein. That's not an oncotic problem. That's just a pump problem. So edema by itself is a symptom, but the doctor or healthcare provider needs to do a differential to figure out what that edema is due to.
Okay.
I'm giving you
Thank
a lot of information, but it's, if you've got a bad diabetic, it's so important to start with one consistent issue, and that is a diet. Okay, the diet is the absolute most important thing to start with, and then you can.
Well, that's our concern, because he's very non-compliant.
Well, that explains
diet
it. Yeah, when you got sugars that run 900 or 30, you've got a very non-compliant person, and that's a very dangerous situation. He's playing with fire. I mean, especially on the low end of the blood sugar, and that's why we say what we strive for an average blood sugar is your age divided by 10. So if you're 70, an average blood sugar of 7 is great. If you're 80, an average blood sugar of 8 is great. We don't want you to get lightheaded, dizzy, and fall, because that is going to be worse than having your blood sugar a little bit higher than normal.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you for...
You're welcome, Sylvia. Thank you for the call, and we're going to go to...
You're very welcome.
Yep, and great topic. I love to talk about diabetes, and we're going to go to break, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
Do you want to lower your power bill? Have you been considering investing in solar panels? Make Lennox SunSource your first choice. For more information, give us a call. Stop by and check out our Lennox rebates on qualifying units. Financing also available. John Air Inc., serving Pahrump for over 10 years.
If you have any paperback books that are in good condition, why not donate them to Nevada Cure, an organization that provides books to Nevada state prisoners? Nevada Cure is a prison reform group that tries to help inmates while they're in prison and helps transition them into the community when they are released. These books help educate and entertain and are needed to help rehabilitate the incarcerated. Call 702-758-3147 to donate your tax-deductible paperback books at 702-758-3147.
At Saida Trudeau, we have a commitment to integrity. We treat you like a neighbor, not a number. We want to earn your friendship, trust, and business for life.
We strive to offer the most competitive pricing, consistently checking nationwide to ensure the best prices.
Life gets busy. Don't add to your stress. Whether you need sales, service, or auto body repair, we're conveniently just minutes away. You can even make an appointment online.
Buying at Saida Trudeau keeps your tax money local for roads, schools, and emergency services. Not to mention, you'll pay a lower sales tax here in Nye County.
We have Nye County's largest inventory and access to thousands more. If we don't have the car, truck, or SUV you're looking for, we will find it for you.
We service all makes and models. Our mechanics are Chrysler and ASE certified, giving you confidence and peace of mind.
Saida Trudeau is the only locally veteran-owned and operated franchise dealership in Nye County. We are proud to call Pahrump home. Come visit us in person or give us a call at 775-455-3435.
Find us online at SaidaTrudeau.com and like us on Facebook.
If you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends.
For my community.
For everyone here. We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
Okay, and we're back. And yes, the show's been a little different tonight because we have a new producer, but he's doing a great job. He kind of got tossed into this situation, but I'm very pleased with how they're making it go. So anyway, we're on the last 15-minute segment, and if you're thinking about calling in, please do so, because we tend to cut the phones off a little bit right before we cut the show off, because we don't want to start a conversation that we obviously can't finish. So anyway, so what Sylvia was touching on is a very, very complex situation with diabetes, especially when you have a loved one or a friend or somebody that you care a lot about that doesn't do the right thing when no one's looking with regards to their diabetes. I battle that all the time. I have a principle, and I call it, I don't know if the viewers out there probably remember the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I love that movie. It's an oldie but a goodie. But anyway, there's obviously a scene in there where Sean Penn is the surfer dude, and he orders pizza during the class, and Mr. Hand gets really upset because he has this rule, no eating on his time. Anyway, he basically says to him, you're creating a major disturbance on my time. And then Sean Penn says, well, I've been thinking about that, Mr. Hand. If I'm here and you're here, doesn't that make it our time? And Mr. Hand says, you're exactly right, Mr. Scully, but it is my class, and so he takes the pizza from him. So if I have patients that are non-compliant with their diabetes, I look at them and I say, look, what are you doing here? Do you want help or do you not want help? And if you do want help, then you have certain things you have to do. And by the second or third visit, if I figure out that someone is not going to be compliant, I let them know, listen, you're wasting your time, okay, because you're not doing what I ask you to do. And if you're wasting your time, you're wasting our time. And if you're wasting our time, you're wasting my time. And so I very politely ask them to find another physician because I don't want their blood on my hands, because they are going to drive themselves into the ground. They're going to have a stroke, have a heart attack. They're going to have some issue as a result of poorly managed diabetes because they are childlike. They don't want to accept the fact they're in denial about a very serious illness. And that serious illness takes a lot of time to manage. It's not easy. And you can do the right thing and you can live a long and prosperous life, or you can do the wrong thing and suffer immensely. And it's all about choices, and it's choices about everything, healthcare, but what you eat, what you do, your exercise, and trying to find that balance between work and play, between money and spending. Everything is a balance, and when you're out of balance, it affects everything that you do. And so I want you to try and realize that as a person out there, maybe you're not in the best of health, but that doesn't mean that you can't change what you're doing on a daily and regular basis. And you can try and make those changes in your life. And yes, it's small. It's those baby steps at first. But getting on a good diet and regimenting your control takes away a variable. The variable is, am I going to eat sugar or am I going to eat starch? Which starch is sugar? Am I going to drink alcohol? Am I going to drink a soda pop? I mean, are you going to do something that you know is bad for you? Then you deserve the consequences of that action. I mean, one of the things that we talk about today in society is the lack of responsibility. We want to blame someone else for our difficulties. We want to say it's that person that made us angry and I went out and ate. Yeah, he held a gun to your head and made you go get a pizza and destroy your diabetes. No, you decided to do that. And it's all about personal responsibility. It's about taking care of your health. Look, healthcare is not that complicated. You make it complicated as a patient by not following the orders of the physician or the provider who's taking care of you. These people are highly trained. They spent their whole life trying to advise you on what to do. And if you don't understand it, you need to take notes. You need to have questions. You need to hold your provider in the room until he answers or she answers your questions. If you're confused, then you're going to have a bad outcome. And that provider is going to shake in their head. Why did you not do it? Well, you didn't understand it. You should have asked. You should have said something. It's about time patients take responsibility. We can't hold your hand every meal you have. We can't hold your hand when you go out and do things, okay? We're trying to fix things that you break. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's not the way it works. You can't decide I'm going to go to the ER when I've smoked cigarettes and I have COPD and my oxygen runs out. That's just a lack of taking care of yourself. And those resources aren't going to be there in the future. I'm telling you right now. It's only a matter of time before, as populations continue to grow and resources get stretched that much more, we're going to be in dire straits in trying to take care of the population. And Ray, you're back on the phone, right?
Back on the phone, because I think I disagree with you on as far as like following the doctor's advice. Because as far as cancer goes, I think all this stuff with chemotherapy and radiation is way out of whack. I think they're actually killing more people, Doc, with the chemotherapy, and they're saying, well, this is what we got to do, this is the regimen, and I just think you got to try something different. And if you got a doctor that's telling you, well, that your only hope is chemo, I'd run like crazy to a different doctor. You don't see that point?
Well, okay, so what you're talking about is current treatment and standard of care, and so as a patient, you always have the right to make that decision, okay? And you always have the right to say, no, I don't want to do chemo. That's a personal decision with cancer because there is no cure for cancer that we're aware of. You can't change the genetic defect that arranged everybody forms cancer all day long in our body. Just sometimes cancer grabs hold, and it's a very unfortunate deal. Hopefully our immune system takes hold of it. I agree with you on chemotherapy, only in the sense that it doesn't make sense, right? Your body needs to be able to kill that cancer, and you're killing rapidly dividing cells, but you're killing the cells that kill the cancer. So I would agree with you with chemo, but on some people, I mean, they do get some remission, and so there's that fine line between if you had chemo in an area that was going to, obstruct an organ, which was going to cause a really bad problem, debulking that tumor it's a quality of life issue. It's not a survivability issue, and so those are different. Every case has its own set of rules and set of things that you need to look at and advise the people. If you go to an oncologist, yes, he's going to tell you we have this chemo, right? And we have this radiation because that's what medicine does today. And I agree with you, Ray. Cancer is one of those areas that's a very, very difficult area because science has not caught up with where we need to be in treating those diseases.
Well, I heard on TV about some kind of, they were given an injection for certain types of cancer for the immune system to kick in.
Yes.
I think they're making progress on it, but to go back to the barbaric way of treating it, it really upsets me. Valerie Harper, you followed her career at all as far as her cancer?
I really haven't, but you can enlighten me.
Well, she had lung cancer, I guess from smoking, I'm not sure. And she was supposedly in remission. She went through the chemo and everything, and she was talking on TV how wonderful that she's in remission. Now it came back, and they said that she has to go into hospice. She doesn't want to go into hospice, and her husband, she's 79 years old, said that he's not going to force her to go into hospice. But she thought she was in remission because of the chemo, and evidently it looked good for a little while.
Well, that's a normal factor, and that's basically, I'll explain that to you, because when you give tumor cells chemo, you kill a certain population of the tumor cells, and you debulk the tumor, and it looks like it's going down beyond the detection limits of what we can tell, but you haven't killed every cancer cell, so some of them survive. And that's true with bacteria, that's true with any infection, that's called chemotherapy. Chemotherapy, when you talk about it in terms of cancer, is just one chemotherapy. If I give you a bacterial an infection, I give you an antibiotic for a bacterial infection, that is chemotherapy, okay? And I don't kill all the bacteria. I just hold the bacteria in check until your white blood cell system can come in and take care of it. And so that's the problem with chemotherapy. It kills the cells that can help kill the cancer. So it's the only area in medicine that is really back-assward, and I agree. But you're faced with a cancer diagnosis, and you're trying to find an answer for it. What they're gearing up for is these immunoglobulins, and you'll see them advertised. It's called anything that ends in the term MAB is a monoclonal antibody, and that's where we're going to get the best cure for cancer. We're going to take a white blood cell culture out of your body. We're going to stimulate those white blood cells. We'll clone them. We'll do whatever we need to do so they can attack those particular cancer cells, and they work, and they do debulk it. But that's why we get cancers as we get older, because we lose our thymus, and our thymus has all of these cells that are undifferentiated. So, the white blood cell population kind of dies out, the immune system kind of gets weaker, and cancers take hold, and that's what happens. It's just the nature of the beast.
Well, as I mentioned on your show previously, and I'll restate this, I firmly believe that in 1937, if the government did not ban cannabis, marijuana, there would have been enough research and we'd have a cure for cancer right now, because I think there's tremendous possibilities in it. And all these years have been wasted because our government betrayed us.
Yep.
Because Hearst had forest and he had enough pull politically to stop the marijuana. You know, right now people are still being prosecuted in the state of Nevada, even though it's legal for having marijuana. I sit in court every day for 17 years. I thought in 16, November 8th or 6th in 16, when they said they decriminalized it in the state of Nevada, I would never see these cases anymore. And they're still bringing up cases where people took a hit off a joint before it went into effect on January 1st, 17, and they're still prosecuting. This is wrong, Doc. I mean, you don't lock people up for something that happened years ago, and they were caught doing something, and it's legal now, and yet this is our court system. So these are just some of my comments because I really get into this stuff.
I mean, I agree with you, Ray. That's asinine. I mean, it's a waste of our criminal justice money.
Right.
And if I'm a judge on that thing, I'm like, what are you wasting your time in court for? You know, give these people a fine, have them pay the small misdemeanor, and send them on their way. You know, I mean, marijuana is not the problem. Okay, it's a symptom of a bigger disease. But listen, I mean, methamphetamine, you know, fentanyl, all the other opioids that are out on the market, that's where they need to concentrate their effort, not on marijuana.
When I saw people going away 1 to 4 years for taking a hit off a joint, I said there's something wrong with our society and the justice system.
Yep.
Right now, there's something they call entrapment, and I see it more and more in the court stock, where they're looking to bust somebody, and so they're setting them up. There's one of them on Calvetta and 160. They got some shill walking across the highway, and if cars don't stop or they swing around them, the motorcycle cops are there, and they're setting people up. The guy will drop a piece of paper when he's close to the curb, and so somebody swings around him, and the cops get him. They're doing the same thing with drugs. They get some CI, a confidential informant, to set somebody up so he gets a better deal on his drug charge.
Yep.
Get somebody to sell him drugs. This is entrapment. It's going on in this county, and something's got to be done about it.
No, and I think if you're into that behavior, you know, you need to be aware that people, that the Nye County justice system, when you're in jail, they get, and those confidential informants, they're turning people in left and right because that's what they want to build their credibility and get themselves out of trouble. So you know.
And sometimes it's for money. Sometimes they get a better deal because they got caught doing something wrong, and sometimes they get paid for it.
No, I agree.
All right, I'm going to let you. Hey, I hope you're on next week, man.
I will be. I'm not going anywhere for at least a month. So.
All right, keep the faith, power to the people. Ray the Flagman, over and out.
Thank you, Ray. I appreciate everybody that called in, Sylvia and Ray, and all the people that enjoyed watching the show. We'll be back on a regular basis, and I'll be talking about PRP and all the other good things we're trying to do to help people heal up. And remember, balance. That's what it is. Life is a system of balance. And with that, I'll close the show. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week.
Hey, Ace Country listeners, you can now catch Ace Country Radio on KPVM-TV, channel 46.7. Catch me, Fitz, F-I-T with a Z, in my radio show on the TV. Send your livestock, your pigs, your cows, your donkeys, whatever it is, your favorite pet videos or photo to mobileburn@gmail.com. That's mobileburn@gmail.com. We're going to upload the videos and play them on the TV. Wait. Yes, I said on TV. That's right, you and your animals. Getting all famous and stuff. Send Ace Country those funny videos of the creature around the farm or the house. You could win a date with me, Fitz, on the air. Actually, you could actually win a pair of concert tickets for the best entry because I'm a married man. Happily married man. I got a bunch of babies and I got a bunch of animals. So I might be sending my videos too. It's an all call, y'all. Get out the camera, shoot some videos, or take a photo of those creatures and those animals. There is not a time limit.
Is a kid fearless, nervous, playful? Yes. 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 Kiwanis is 600,000 kids at heart doing all the little and big things it takes to help children around the world. Because kids need Kiwanis. All of them.
I'm Joe Adams. I'm a pharmacist. I'm also a parent that knows the pain of losing their child to an opiate overdose. We lose 64,000 lives a year due to this epidemic. No one is immune from this. The members of the National Association of Boards of Pharmacy focus on ensuring that pharmacies and pharmacists are providing safe medications and patient services for you and your family. Learn how to keep you and your loved ones safe at nabp.pharmacy.